Section 4.2 is writing equations in slope-intercept form, but I specifically call this the finding b section because in the last section you were always given m and given b, or a way to look at the graph and find the m and find the b. However, in this section you'll be able to find the m and then you are not going to be given the b and you actually have to solve for it. So here is the step-by-step of how to do that. So step 1 says identify the slope. So the first thing you want to do is find the slope. You either can use the slope formula, which remember is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So remember, that's just subtract the y's over subtract the x's. Sometimes you might just be given the slope itself. Sometimes you might be given the graph and you can do rise over run to count up and over or down and over to see what the slope is. But in any case, you first have to find the slope. The second step is to find the y-intercept. If you're not already given the y-intercept, remember, if you are given something like 0, comma something, that something is your b value. But if you're not given the slope and you're not given the graph where you can easily identify the y-intercept, you actually have to solve for the slope. So it says you can substitute the slope and the coordinates of a point on the line in y equals mx plus b, and then solve for b. And that's actually what we're going to emphasize and focus on in this section. So once you find the m and once you have the b, the y-intercept, your final step is just to write the equation in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So again, we'll see plenty of examples where you have to solve for b. So let's take a look at our first example. Number 1, write an equation of a line that passes through the point 6, 3 and has a slope of -2. So remember, it is our job to find the m and to find the b. In this case, we are told that the slope is -2. So we have y equals -2x plus, notice that the point that we're given is not 0, comma something. It is 6, 3. So therefore, this is not the b. So since I was not given the b, I have to solve for b. So far in my equation, like I stated before, I have y equals -2x plus b. Again, I knew the slope was -2, so I went ahead and substituted that into the equation. But I am going to use this point 6, 3 to my advantage. I know that in an ordered pair, the first number is an x value and the second number is a y value. Notice we have an x and a y in our equation, just like we were given an x and a y with the ordered pair. So what I'm going to do to solve for b is substitute 6 in for x and 3 in for y, and then I'll be able to solve for b. Therefore, I would have 3 equals -2 times 6 plus b. So that'd be 3 equals -2 times 6 is -12 plus b. I would then add 12 to both sides, which would end up giving me b equals 15. So remember, initially I knew my job was to find the m and the b. I was given the m, and now I have found that the b is 15. So my final step is just to write the final equation, which would be y equals -2x, since it's y equals mx, and we know m is -2, plus b, and we know b is 15. And that would be my final answer. Let's look at another example. We have number 2, write an equation of a line that passes through 3, 0, and 2, -4. So remember, it's our job to find the m and the b. In this case, I was not given either. I was given 2 ordered pairs, 3, 0, and 2, -4. I was not given the m, and I was not given the b. Some people might think or mistake the 3, 0 as the b. But remember, I am only given the b when my ordered pair is 0, comma something. But in this case, I was given something, comma 0. So actually, this is the x-intercept, not the y-intercept that we need for the b. So again, I need to find the m and I need to find the b. I'm given 2 points. Remember, I can find the slope when I'm given 2 points by doing y minus y over x minus x. So that's what I'll do first. I'll use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Since I'll start with the 0, let's say we'll start with the 0. I'll start with 0 on the top, So 0 minus negative 4, the other y value. Since I started with 0 in the numerator, I'm going to start with 3 in the denominator since it was the corresponding x value that went with 0. So it'd be 3 minus 2. So I'll do a same change here. 0 plus positive 4 is 4, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So my slope is 4. So I'm halfway there, because remember, I know I need to find the m, and I know I need to find the b. So far, with y equals mx plus b, I know it's y equals 4x plus, and again, neither of these points were the b, so I have to solve for b. This time, we were given two ordered pairs. We have a choice to pick either point to substitute in for the x and the y, so we solve for b. It does not matter which point you choose, you will get the same answer no matter which ordered pair you choose. I typically choose the ordered pair that has the easiest numbers to work with, and or the ordered pair that has numbers that are the smallest. So in this case, I have 3, 0, and 2, negative 4. So 3, 0 is slightly smaller than the 2, negative 4, and also 0 is pretty easy to work with. So I'm going to choose that 3, 0 and substitute the 3 in for my x in the equation and 0 in for the y in the equation. So again, 3 goes in for x, 0 goes in for y. So I have 0 equals 4 times 3 plus b. 4 times 3 is 12. So if I subtract 12 from both sides, 0 minus 12 is negative 12, so I end up with b equals negative 12. So I now have both the m and the b that I knew I had to find from the get-go. So my final answer would be to write the equation y equals mx plus b now with the numbers that we found. So m is 4x, and instead of plus b, it's a negative 12, so we're going to say minus 12. And that would be my final answer. Example number 3, which function has the values f of 2 equals 8 and f of negative 2 equals negative 4? And notice this is a multiple choice problem, so we're going to be able to choose from these 4 options. So we have some more function form. Now remember, if it's f of 2 equals 8, that means 2 is my x value, 8 is my y value. F of negative 2 equals negative 4, that means that negative 2 is my x value and negative 4 is my y value. If it helps you, go ahead and rewrite these as ordered pairs so it's a little more familiar for you to look at and work with. So 2, 8, and negative 2, negative 4. Remember, I have to find the m, and I need to find the b. I was given neither of them. So the first thing I do is always start with slope. When in doubt, if you can't figure out anything else to do in a problem, always start with slope. If you can't figure anything else, always start with slope. So y minus y over x minus x. So I'll start with this 8. So if I do 8 minus the other y value, negative 4, over 2 minus negative 2. Let's do some same change. So plus positive, 8 plus 4 is 12. 2 plus 2 is 4, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So far I know the slope is 3. Let's move the page down just a little bit so that I have more room to work with. So far I have y equals 3x plus, let's see, neither of these points were the b since it wasn't 0 comma something, so therefore I need to solve for b. Remember, I take one of the ordered pairs that I was given and substitute in for the x and the y. And remember, it does not matter which ordered pair I choose, I will get the same answer no matter what. I can put the 2 in for the x and 8 in for the y, or I could put negative 2 in for x and negative 4 in for y. Let's choose the 2, 8, just because I like this ordered pair a little bit more, just because both numbers are positive. I do realize that the 8 is bigger than the negative 2 and the negative 4, but again, I like this ordered pair just a little bit more just because both the 2 and the 8 are positive. And positive numbers to me, in my opinion, are just a little bit easier to work with. So again, I'm going to put the 2 in for the x and 8 in for the y to solve for b. So let's get to that. So I have 8 equals 3, which was that slope that we found, times 2 plus b. 3 times 2 is 6. And then if I subtract 6 from both sides, I end up with b equals 2. So remember, that was my first thing that I needed to do. I needed to figure out the m and I needed to figure out the b. So my final answer would be to put everything together and have y equals 3x plus 2, which, remember this was a multiple choice problem, that would be option A. So let's just circle this option. Our answer was actually A. And here's just a little concept summary graphic that I pulled from your book. This is how to write equations in slope-intercept form. So first, if you're given the m and you're given the b, you can just substitute the m and substitute the b into the equation y equals mx plus b. If you were given the graph, remember you can always find the slope by doing rise over run, and typically you'll be able to find the b by looking at the y-axis and identifying where it hits the y-axis at, and that would give you the b value. Sometimes you might end up with a graph where it'll look something like this. So there's your coordinate plane, and you have this graph coming down this way, and you recognize that it hits here at 1 and here at 2, and your y-intercept is somewhere in between that. So in that case, you would have to estimate what your y-intercept is, and we don't estimate in algebra. We have to find the exact answer. So in this case, you could still find the rise over the run, but you'd have to substitute an ordered pair in, just like we've been doing in this section, in order to solve for the b. But typically, if you're given the graph, you should usually be able to find where it hits the y-axis at. Moving on. You can also write an equation in slope-intercept form if you're given the m and 1 point. So just like we've been doing, if you're given the m, you put the m into your equation, so you'd have y equals whatever that m value is, x plus b. Take one of your points, the point that you're given, and substitute in for the x and the y, and then solve for b, just like we've been doing all section long in all of the examples we've done. You can also write an equation in slope-intercept form if you're given 2 points. Remember, the first thing you do is find the slope. So you use the 2 ordered pairs that you were given, do y minus y over x minus x to find the slope. Then you follow the same steps as over here by taking your m that you just found, one of the ordered pairs that you were given, plug those in for x and y, and solve for b, just like we were talking about, like on the left side, just like we've been doing in all of the examples so far in this section. Example number 4, a carnival charges $2.50 per ride after an entrance fee. You paid a total of $22.50 after 6 rides. The first problem states, write an equation that gives the total cost as a function of the number of rides. So, as always, let's first identify what our x value and our y value will represent. It says that the cost is a function of the number of rides. So that means that the cost is determined by the number of rides. So the number of rides would be your independent variable x, and your total cost would be your dependent variable y. So again, x is the number of rides and y is your total cost. Let's look at some key words in this problem. It says $2.50 per ride. If you remember from the last section, anytime we see the word per or each, we are signaling that this is a slope, because it's $2.50 per 1 ride. So that means I'm going up $2.50 for every 1 I'm going across, just like rise over run. So my slope in this case is $2.50. And then I also have to find the b. Was I given the b in this case? It says you paid a total of $22.50 after 6 rides. So that means if x is the number of rides and total cost is your y value, that means I was actually given an ordered pair, 6, 22.50. That is not the b. Since it is not 0, something, this is not the b, just like we've talked about before. But I can use this ordered pair to solve for b. I know what the slope is. I know the slope is $2.50, and I have this ordered pair that I can use for x and y to substitute it into y equals mx plus b and solve for b. So far I have y equals $2.50 x plus b. Remember, I'm going to use this point to solve for b by substituting the 6 in for x and 22.50 in for y. So I'd have 22.50 equals $2.50 times 6 plus b. $2.50 times 6 is $15, so I'd have $22.50 equals 15 plus b, which means I'm going to now subtract 15 from both sides. $22.50 minus $15 is $7.50. And now I have the b. So I have $2.50 for the slope and $7.50 for the y-intercept. So I would have y equals $2.50 x plus $7.50 for my final equation. Part B says find the total cost for 15 rides. So now that I have this equation, y equals $2.50 x plus $7.50, it says find the total cost, which is a y value, for 15 rides, which remember the number of rides is your x value. So basically this is just saying substitute 15 in for x and solve for y. So I'd have y equals $2.50 times 15 plus the $7.50 for the b that I found. $2.50 times 15 is $37.50 plus the $7.50 that I found for the b. And adding those two together, I get a grand total of 45. And again, this is money, so it'd be $45. So again, it would cost $45 to ride the carnival rides 15 times. One thing I want to note here for you as just kind of a common rule of thumb, we were given three numbers. We were given $2.50 per ride and then the $22.50 for the 6 rides. Typically, when you're given three numbers in your story problems, you are going to be given the slope and a point, because the slope is just one number and the point, the ordered pair, is going to be 2 numbers. So again, if you are given 3 numbers from the get-go, typically that means you were given the slope and you were given an ordered pair. So going forward, as you're doing your homework, you can count up the number of numbers that you were given, and if it's 3, you know that you were given the slope and an ordered pair, just like in this problem. And our last problem, example number 5. For science class, you need to know the Celsius equivalent of a room temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. To estimate the Celsius equivalent, you use the facts that 32 degrees Fahrenheit is equivalent to 0 degrees Celsius and 212 degrees Fahrenheit is equivalent to 100 degrees Celsius. Estimate the Celsius equivalent to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's take a look at what we were actually given. We were given that 30 degrees Fahrenheit is equivalent to 0 degrees Celsius. And we were also given that 212 degrees Fahrenheit is equivalent to 100 degrees Celsius. So we were actually given 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. In the last problem, we were given 3 numbers. So that told me that I was given a point and a slope. But this time I'm given 1 extra number. I'm actually given 4 numbers. If you're given 4 numbers, that means you're actually given 2 ordered pairs. In this case, we were given that 32 degrees Fahrenheit was equivalent to 0 degrees Celsius, and we were given that 212 degrees Fahrenheit is equivalent to 100 degrees Celsius. So really, I was given 2 ordered pairs. And again, I could see that because I was given 4 numbers from the get-go. So what I'm going to have to do now, I'm still going to find the M and I'm going to find the B, but I'm using those 2 ordered pairs, those 4 numbers that I was given as part of the problem. So remember, when in doubt, find the slope. If you can't figure out anything else to do, always start with the slope. So in this case, I'm going to do y minus y over x minus x. So I'd have m equals, let's start with the bigger number, 100, minus 0, over, if I use the 100 first, I'm going to use the 212 first in the denominator. 100 minus 0 is 100. And 212 minus 32 is 180. So from the get-go, I can see, to simplify this, both of those have a 0, so I know it's at least 10 over 18. And if you look at 10 over 18, both of those can be divisible by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. So I know my slope is 5 over 9. I need to give myself a little more room to work here, so I'm just going to scroll up a little bit so that I can still see the problem. So again, I know that m is equal to 5, 9. So far I have y equals 5 over 9x plus b. Neither of these points were the y-intercept. This would have been really nice if this had been 0, 32, because that would have been my y-intercept, but it was 32, 0, so that is not my y-intercept. So I'm going to pick one of these points to substitute in for x and for y, and again, it does not matter which point I choose. Since I always think that 0 is easier to work with, let's choose this point to substitute in for x and for y. So again, I'm going to take 32, plug it in for x, and put 0 in for y. So I would have 0 equals 5 over 9 times 32 plus b. I'm going to go ahead and just use my calculator and take 5 over 9 times 32. By using my calculator, I ended up with 160 over 9. So I have 0 equals 160 over 9 plus b. Again, I'm going to just scroll up here a little bit to give myself a little more room to work with. And so now to get b by itself, I would subtract the 160 over 9. So I'm going to take the 160 over 9 and subtract it from both sides. 0 minus 160 over 9 would just be negative 160 over 9. So now I have the b. So let's scroll back up here. I know that the b is negative 160 over 9. I now have all of the parts in order to write my equation. My equation would be y equals 5 over 9x minus 160 over 9. So there's my equation. Keep in mind that the 32 was a Fahrenheit and the 0 was a Celsius, just like the 212 was a Fahrenheit and the 100 was a Celsius. So really my ordered pair is not just x comma y, it's F Fahrenheit comma C. So the whole point of finding this equation was that we were asked to find or to estimate the Celsius equivalent to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So we had to find an equation in order to plug 70 degrees Fahrenheit into it to solve for the Celsius. So keeping in mind that our first number is F and our second number is C for Celsius, I'm going to put the 70 degrees Fahrenheit that I was given here and substitute it in for X. Since my first number was representing Fahrenheit, I'm going to plug 70 in for the X. So I'm going to take this 70, plug it in for X, and I can do all of this in my calculator with like the ABC key. So I'm going to take 5/9 times 70 minus 160 over 9. And again, I'm just going to do that in my calculator using the ABC key. And again, I just kind of scrolled up a little bit so I could have a little more room to work. I get y is equal to 21 1/9, and that would be Celsius degree. So it just said estimate. The word estimate was in here. So I would just say that 70 degrees Fahrenheit is about, so squiggly equal sign, about 21 degrees Celsius. And there's my final answer. So just to reiterate, if I am given 4 numbers like I was in this problem, I was given the 32 and the 0, the 212 and the 100. So 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. If I'm given 4 numbers in a story problem, I was probably given 2 ordered pairs. If I was given 3 numbers in a story problem, I was probably given the slope and a point, 1 ordered pair. So you can kind of use that as a rule of thumb as you're working through your story problems in order to help you identify what you know and what you need to find out. Remember, it's always your job to find the M and the B if you're not otherwise given it. That's it for this section. Make sure you jot down anything you don't understand and we can cover it in class before we move on, and we'll see you then.